A very busy show, as I said. We will be joined by Dale Scott, former Major League Baseball umpire, Apple TV MLB rules analyst. He will join us. Author, The Umpire is Out. We'll have him coming up a little later on in the show. Obviously, a lot to talk about with Major League Baseball's new ABS system, the automatic ball strike system that's in place. Also, CB Bucknor hurt yesterday, which we'll talk about coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We'll get into that with him and sort of, the state of umpiring now in this era of ABS. We'll get into that with him some. There is news to get to from the world of the NFL. We'll get into that both here in the big story and also coming up in a few minutes. Quarterback news. One of the big free agent quarterbacks that was sitting out there has decided where he is going to play in 2026. There is news from the world of football. So we've got American football news and world soccer news to talk about. NBA, with the tightening of the MVP race continuing. We'll talk about that as well. But we start things out as we always do on this Thursday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story today begins in the NFL, where Puka Nacua is headed to rehab. And I got to be honest, this one kind of took me by surprise until you sit and really think about it. Because we talked about this a week ago with this story about the lawsuit being filed against him, a civil lawsuit being filed against him, in which he was accused of biting a woman, using anti-Semitic language while on this, date encounter with a woman, and accusations, by the way, at least the anti-Semitism part of the story, which were denied by his attorney. And there was obviously the incident long before this where, he had to apologize for appearing on a podcast with social media influencer Aiden Ross, where he was seen doing this dance that was viewed by some to be anti-Semitic. It was a touchdown dance that Aiden Ross wanted him to do during a game, and he practiced doing it on this social media video, all of this that had taken place. So, and there's been a laundry list of things that have happened with Puka Nacua here over the last year plus that have kind of led people to sort of give a tilted head look at him and say, all right, what's going on with this kid? There's clearly something amiss. There's clearly something not right in the world of Puka Nacua. And now we find out yesterday through his attorney that Puka Nacua is in rehab. And the reality is this. He's at a pivotal point in his career. He's at a very big intersection in his career in terms of which direction he's going to go. There have been great receivers in this game. I think of Chris Carter, one of the great receivers in the game, who, started his career with the Philadelphia Eagles and had a lot of personal demons and things he had to fight, and was able to fight off those things and went on to have a Hall of Fame career and a great career in Minnesota with the Vikings. And then I think of guys like Antonio Brown, who, won a Super Bowl and was a world-class receiver with the Pittsburgh Steelers and went off the deep end and continues to go off the deep end. And there were moments in all of these guys' career where they probably had an opportunity to right the ship. And there have been numerous guys like this throughout the history of not just the NFL, but all of sports. We can go through, we can do an entire show on this. And it feels like Puka Nacua right now is sort of teetering on the edge of that. Is he going to be Antonio Brown? Is he going to be Chris Carter? What is the future for Puka Nacua? And he's made a decision to go to rehab. The cynic in me will always say, well, a guy decides to go to rehab when he knows he's in trouble and he's trying to save face. But then there's the other part of me that'll say, because I could argue both sides of anything, there's the other part of me that'll say, well, maybe somebody got through to the kid. Maybe somebody was able to get to him and help him make a healthy decision for his future. And we're going to find out. Because you get one shot at this rehab thing. Because if you come out of rehab and you're still found to be saying all these anti-Semitic things and making all these boneheaded decisions, well, then we just found out that you're the problem. You didn't really need rehab. You were just trying to save face. So, best of luck to Puka Nacua. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see what happens on the other side of this. That's big story number one. Big story number two, this. This was tough to watch yesterday, especially because just hours earlier, we've been critical of CB Bucknor for all the trouble he's had behind home plate in this early era of ABS, for the call he missed out in the field just 24 hours before this, where Jake Bauers clearly stepped on first base, and CB Bucknor said he had missed first base. And then you see CB Bucknor get drilled in the mush with a foul ball and have to leave the game yesterday. And it reminds you of the fragility of sports. And it reminds you of the fact that, all these guys are out there and we get into it and we're critical of, A, B, and C and, umpires and, we go after them for good calls and bad calls. And at the end of the day, these are human beings out there, we'd like to think, doing their best. And I just want to say, on behalf of all of us on Sports Wrap, all the best to CB Bucknor. No matter what you think about the calls or the way, certain things happen in sports, we're wishing the best for CB Bucknor. We'll talk more about it with Dale Scott coming up in a couple of minutes. Sports Wrap, and this portion of Sports Wrap brought to you by our friends at Colossus Fantasy. Colossus Fantasy, pick'em games, peer-to-peer. Right now, use my promo code SPORTSWRAP when you sign up. On a $10 deposit, you get a $40 bonus. On a $20 deposit, get yourself an $80 bonus. Again, with my promo code SPORTSWRAP right now with Colossus Fantasy. We're coming back. We've got some more NFL to talk about, the Puka Nacua story. Sam Yarnell will be here. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to this Thursday edition of the show. Dale Scott, former big league umpire analyst for like every network these days, landed himself a nice cushy gig. Get some thoughts with him on CB Bucknor getting hit in the face with a foul ball yesterday. Got hit in the mask, and something Dale Scott could certainly relate to, so I want to get into it with him on that. ABS, a whole bunch more. Sam Yarnell is here for the first time today. So we got two guys going to rehab. I want to focus on one here because the other is sort of a rehash of somebody who's already gone to rehab in Tiger Woods. So I want to talk about the Puka Nacua one because that one kind of came out of left field yesterday. We find out from his attorney while he's in the midst of this lawsuit that's been filed against him, this civil suit that's been filed against him, that Puka Nacua is in rehab. And they don't really specify what he's in rehab for. They just say he's in rehab. So Sam Yarnell, I have chronicled this Puka Nacua thing going back to the Aiden Ross stuff. And there's a long list here now, a track record of things that have been going on with him that would lead you to believe there is some sort of mental turmoil going on in this kid's life that has gotten us to this point. We still don't know what this point is because we don't really know what he's in rehab for, except that he's trying to better himself. But ultimately, this is also, we are a sports talk show. And we talk about sports every day. And there is a sports element to this. And it is arguably the best player offensively on one of the best teams in the league and being up for a contract extension and a team having to make a decision about what they're going to do with him long term while watching all that is going on with him and this mental turmoil he's going through.
Yeah, Jason, it's a weird situation,
It is.
man. Like obviously, like you, like all of us, I still don't quite understand it. I don't know if we will understand it. Not that we should, not that it's our right to or anything like that. Like that's his prerogative. Keep whatever you want out of, the media circle. It only extends to a certain point. You've reached that point. We're all good on that front. But like, yeah, it also is weird because you remember a week ago there was this allegation that came out about the biting and the anti-Semitic thing, but then the lawyer says that he's been in rehab since before that allegation came out. So now we're looking at a multiple weeks long rehab. And they also said in the statement that he'll continue to stay in rehab. So we're looking at this guy spending realistically at least a month in a rehab facility of an offseason that's only how many months long, right? Only realistically, if he's going to be ready for OTAs, it's only realistically a 5-month long offseason, and that may be being generous. So now you're telling me he's going to spend 20% of that in a rehab facility? Something seriously got to be wrong. I hope that he gets the help that he needs, that whatever he's in rehab for, he, is aided with, but my goodness, what an interesting dark
Twist.
situation
Yeah.
that we find ourselves dealing
Yeah.
with.
I hate to call it a twist because it almost you know casts a different sort of light on this, and it is a serious situation but the reality is we don't know how serious a situation it is because we don't know what he's
Right.
in rehab for. We don't know what the issue is. But we know there is an issue because normal people or people in the right frame of mind, normal is the wrong word, people in the right frame of mind don't behave the way that we've seen Puka Nacua behaving off the football field. And here is the saving grace to this. Unlike who we're going to talk about a little later in the show, in Tiger, who we'll give a mention to at the end of the show, in odds and ends, at least somebody's getting to Puka Nacua early and saying you need help. Now, there is the cynical side of me that says somebody's trying to save face here, knowing that he's up for a contract extension. I'm sorry. I've seen it too many times. Somebody gets in trouble for saying something anti-Semitic. Oh, I have an alcohol problem. Oh, we've seen this. We've seen this act before. Mel Gibson, the anti. Oh, I've got an alcohol problem because I just got caught blasted some cop and calling them, Nazis and things like that. We've seen this act before. So while in the back of my mind, I'd like to think that this is all happening for the right reasons, there is also a part of me that says I'm not going to get fooled again. And Puka Nacua is doing this because he knows he's up for a big contract extension. He's trying to show the Rams he's doing the right thing and trying to get his life on track. Here's my point, I guess, on this. I'm going to land this plane eventually. You only get one shot at this. Because we're watching Tiger go back into rehab, and you know what everybody's saying about Tiger going into rehab right now? Yeah, right, he's going back into rehab. We've seen this act before. And by the way, he's going to go do it in another part of the world because he doesn't want the attention of people on him here in the United States. Puka, you get one shot at this. Because after you go to rehab and use it as your excuse for why you've been behaving a certain way, if you screw it up again and start acting the same way again, people aren't going to believe you the next time.
It's a little bit chicken and egg, right? Like, and I'm the most interested to find out, not saying that we ever will or should find out, but these things tend to come out in the wash one way or another, years down the line, even if that's the case. And if we find out 10 years from now, so be it. But my biggest curiosity is who or which party, I guess, pushed him to go there. Because I think that tells a lot of the story, right? If it's the agent, if it's the lawyer, then I think a lot of what you're saying could have some merit to it. But if it's the Rams, then what if there was something that they had seen for a long, sustained period of time, and these actions that you and I talk about are what ultimately pushed it over the edge?
And I'm so glad you bring up the Rams part of this, because if you look at the quotes and the stories that I've looked at over the last 12 to 16 hours, they're all saying, we're not even thinking about contracts. We're just worried about the player. We've expressed to him that there's the on-the-field stuff and the off-the-field stuff. It is very easy, Sam Yarnell, to read between the lines and very easily deduce they're already getting tired of this crap. That there is a breaking point by which they're going to say, all right, we can only deal with so much of this.
Well,
especially with the anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
There's only so much of that you can deal with. We're coming back. Dale Scott, former Major League Baseball umpire on ABS, CB Bucknor, and a whole bunch more. Welcome back to the show. I talked about it a bit in the big story. As much as we have talked about ABS, Major League Baseball's new automatic ball strike system. We talked about CB Bucknor yesterday on the show. We had David Ardsman. We were talking about the controversy around him and kind of his rough start to the season. Nobody wants to see what happened yesterday in Milwaukee with him getting drilled by a foul tip off a Jacob Mizorowski fastball at 100 miles an hour and having to leave the game. And it really just goes to point out the fragility of what it is umpires do. And I could think of no better person to get on to sort of discuss this than our friend Dale Scott, former big league umpire, author, The Ump is Out. Also does a great job on the umpire and analyst work. He did it with Netflix, although they didn't get to use him. He does it for Apple TV. He'll be on the Royals-Brewers game tomorrow night. You can catch him there. And always gracious enough to give us some time here on the show as well. Dale Scott hanging out with us. So when you see something like what happened with CB, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? It's got to bring back flashbacks because that's basically what took you out of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, total flashback. I mean, I know exactly what that feels like and sounds like, and it's not fun, and we are taught, we have a graphic that shows the umpire, what we call the slot. The slot's the area between the catcher and the hitter. So in a right-handed hitter, it's on the behind the catcher, it's on the left side of the catcher, and the left-handed hitter is the right-handed catcher. But anyway, that's the slot. And there's a graphic that shows green, yellow, red, and blue. Green being the highest percentage of not getting hit. Then yellow is a little bit higher percentage of getting hit. Red is a danger zone, and blue is a danger zone. So, the ball is going to get you if it's going to get you. I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at, but there are places where an umpire can be that are more of the kill zone, so to speak, where the foul balls go right over the catcher's head. And if you're, for example, if you're right over the catcher's head, that's a horrible place to be. And you won't see too many umpires do that. The old outside protector years ago, that's how that was the mechanic for it. You held it up to your throat, the outside protector, and you were exactly over the catcher's head, and those guys got whacked because that's just, that's the kill zone. And then if you're on the opposite side of the hitter, that's also a bad place to be. Anyway, 3 out of the 4 concussions that I had to leave the game and eventually leave my career, I was in the green zone, and 1 I was in the yellow zone. So you have to see pitches. Obviously, that's your job, but you also are cognizant of where you're at to hopefully have a higher percentage of not getting hit. But when I saw CB get hit, when I see any guy take a shot, it certainly is a flashback, and like I said, it's just not a lot of fun.
Do you feel the effects even today of those concussions?
I've been lucky. So far, no. And the testing that I've done since the one that took me out, which now has been a long time. It's in fact. April 14th of this year will be 9 years.
Wow.
When that one took me out, because it was 2017. But I haven't had any effects. The testing that I've had has shown not even yellow flags. It's all been green. So I'm in pretty good shape, although, like they say, you never know as you get older that there may be some issues. But so far, so good. And that's the thing about head injuries and about these concussions and headshots is that they don't know a lot. they're still trying to learn. There's still a lot of research, but they just don't know the long-term effects. And that was one of the reasons why I chose not to come back when I could have once I was recovered from that concussion, but I chose not to.
What will be the protocol now with CB? What will happen next?
Well, all umpires have a baseline test we take at our annual meeting. So he'll probably have a few days off doing nothing. Then, depending on how he feels and whatever symptoms he may have, because each concussion is different. I had different symptoms for different concussions. At some point, usually it's not. At least a week, if not 10 days later, he'll take the baseline test to see where he's at, and then they'll determine from there.
Okay.
Dale, when we talk about this in relation to, officials in other sports, I think that this is a little bit tied to kind of what we're talking about in terms of taking care of the umpires. There's an ongoing dispute right now between NFL officials and the league itself. And one big thing is the NFL official, or the league wants to make the NFL officials full-time employees. Are Major League Baseball umpires full-time employees of Major League Baseball, or are they part-time?
Yeah, both or all three, hockey, basketball, and baseball are all full-time employees. Their officials are. The NFL is a different animal. Of course, you only have 16 regular season games. They have, or is it more than 16 now? So there might be more than that. But
17.
Yeah, 17.
70. Right. They've added, and I think they have maybe one of those weeks off or something like that. Anyway, you're not working nearly as many games as those other sports. But it's kind of like a full-time job during the season, and even about a month or so before, because of meetings and video and all the things that go on during the year, during the week before their next assignment and all that stuff. There has been talk about full-time employees of the NFL for a long time. A lot of those guys have jobs. They're insurance executives or principals or whatever it is that they do, but they're able to obviously get. In the fall, get the weekends off and that kind of stuff. So, that's an ongoing thing. I don't know how it's going to play out. I do know, or what I've read anyway, is that they are having some real issues in trying to get together, and the NFL is, I think, proceeding right now and getting ready to hire officials in case they have to have replacements, which I hope it doesn't come to that, because it's been a disaster every time it has. So we'll see how that plays out.
I'm anxious to get your thoughts, and we're going to hang on to you for another segment. I'm anxious to get your thoughts, when it comes to somebody like CB who's in his 60s, taking these sorts of shots, versus some of these younger umpires, how the wear and tear of this physically on some of these older umpires versus some of these younger umpires, Dale. I want to get into it with you on that. I also want to talk about ABS. And the first week of it, because while it all seems like fun and games with ABS and the fans are getting into it and it's this new aspect of the game and everybody's having fun with it right now, I feel like we're in the very early stages of a breaking point with a lot of these umpires already. I saw it with Mike Estabrook. Dale Scott's hanging out with us. More to do with him on the other side. In the Sports Wrap Spotlight on this Thursday is our friend Dale Scott, former big league umpire, umpiring analyst, rules analyst with Apple TV, did the Netflix game, even though he wasn't on. He was on. He was just sitting there waiting. He was waiting. He was ready for the Netflix game and hanging out with us on the show today in the Sports Wrap Spotlight. So I'm anxious to sort of get your thoughts on this first week of ABS, because while it's all fun and games and fans are going crazy and the announcers are having fun with it, I see a big problem on the horizon, and it's umpires. It's supposed to eliminate confrontations between umpires and coaches and umpires and players. I see umpires. I saw Mike Estabrook the other day against in the Yankees Mariners game, where he was, barking at the dugout. Maybe they were barking at him. You've got guys that are missing calls by this much, and we're all trying to cast aspersions on them. Yes, there are instances where guys are missing calls by more than that. I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts as to, the first week of ABS and how it projects out beyond, this week and month and into the future.
Well, I think you're onto something there, Jason. It is kind of fun and games now. It's all a new little novelty. And I'm shocked and appalled that the Yankees dugout was barking at an umpire. That's never heard of such, never heard of such nonsense. But and by the way, that Estherbrook, what you're talking about, that was in Seattle. I mean, they were barking. There was a pitch. It was a 1/10 of an inch off. Which, by the way, and I need to explain this because I don't think a lot of people understand it fully, if at all. It's a different strike zone. These umpires are having to call a completely different strike zone than what they did last year. And all the years previous. It used to be 3-dimensional. It's now 2-dimensional. It used to start at the front edge of the plate. It's now in the middle of the plate, which is 8.5 inches deeper. The line of demarcation for an umpire used to be the midpoint for the high boundary, the midpoint between the top of the pants and the shoulder. So when he was in his swinging stance, so to speak. So when a hitter came up, I could see that where that about where that midpoint is. Obviously, there's not a line there, but I can see that, and that gives me something to judge for that high boundary. And of course, the low boundary was the hollow beneath the knee. Now the low boundary is 27%, and the high boundary is 53.5% of the measurement of the batter standing straight up. Okay, so somebody comes up, I'm supposed to understand where 53.5% of his measurement standing straight up when he's in a swinging position is at. Now, obviously, they came up with that formula that it's very similar to what the strike zone was, but the point is, the umpires have no line to look at or no line of demarcation to judge from. They just, and all you have to be is off 1/10 of an inch, and you do not get the ABS, right? You will be overturned. So they're learning a completely new strike zone. That pitch that was 1/10 of an inch off low that the Yankees won the challenge, that was a strike at the beginning of the play, at the front edge of the plate. But it's not judged until the middle of the plate, which is, so there's several strikes that I've seen that have been or strikes or balls, whatever, that were overturned that were strikes or balls a year ago with the old strike zone. These guys are learning new strike zones. They're learning them basically on the fly because they only had maybe 3 or 4 plate games in spring training, both last year and this year. So again, I'm not giving them excuses. That's just reality. And so these guys are very good, and they will figure it out. And they will, it reminds me about 2003 when I was working, and they changed for the ZE system back then that we were evaluated on, but they changed the definition of the strike zone slightly, not nearly as much as this year. And there was a real adjustment period for everybody, hitters, pitchers, umpires, everybody was trying to figure it out. And we eventually did. But there's a kind of a growing pain. So we're really early in this ABS. Now, the other thing that you were talking about, it's all fun and games right now. I honestly think that at some point, not this year, but at some point in the future, it's going to be all ABS. I just think that that's where we're going. Because take, for example, the World Baseball Classic game, the U.S. against the Dominican, and it ended on a strike 3 call. Yep. Which, again, by the way, if that was a regular strike zone, might have nipped the very front edge of the knee, but I'm not going to get into that. But my point is this. Let's say they did have ABS for that game. And let's say the Dominicans had used their challenges. And so the game ends, they can't challenge, and everybody's going crazy saying, we have this technology and we're going to end the game on a controversial pitch because they're out of challenges. I just don't see that flying. And if that happens, and it will, at some point this year, it may be more than once for sure, but a big leverage type situation like that, people are going to say, wait a minute, we have the technology, we need to have ABS to call those pitches. And so I think eventually it's going to lead to just an all ABS system.
Sam, go ahead.
Dale, do you believe that it'll lead to younger umps throughout Major League Baseball? I know that it's very early on, but the analytics have come out and it seems like the challenged pitches are being overturned less frequently with the umpires that are younger as opposed to the umpires that are older. To you, does that break down as something that these guys just came up in the minor leagues with and they're more familiar with? Or do you think that Major League Baseball will start to phase toward younger umpires?
Well, I think a lot of it is a lot of these younger umpires and call-up umpires have used the system more than just a few play jobs in spring training. They use it in AAA, and so they're more familiar with it. Absolutely, and more veteran guys. I mean, I know if I was still working and this came up, this would be a struggle for me to learn and adapt to an ABS system after calling the other strike rule book strike zone for years and years.
Dale Scott always does a great job on everything having to do with umpire. I'm going to hold him for the YouTube portion of the show and for the podcast portion because I got a couple more questions. Thanks, Dale.
You got it.
Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. The odds on Victor Wembanyama winning the MVP, they're getting better. I got news for you. And if he keeps doing what he did last night, they might keep getting better yet. Sammy Arnell, let's talk football and football. I had just planned to talk about the World Cup here and the outrageous ticket prices for the World Cup, but Kirk Cousins decided to make some news, so I decided we'll split the segment on football and start with Kirk Cousins. Color me surprised. This was not one I saw coming. I did not think Kirk Cousins would be the kind of or take the position of, all right, I'll be the backup to Fernando Mendoza in Las Vegas with the Raiders. But apparently that's what he's decided to do for the 2026 season. Unless, something else is afoot here? Something else is amiss? And maybe the Raiders aren't sold? I'm hoping. Because it's a better story. If Fernando Mendoza, who completed like 60 of 63 or 63 of 66 passes yesterday, doesn't wind up being the top pick in the NFL draft, and the Raiders just decide magically to go in a different direction than Fernando Mendoza and start Kirk Cousins as their quarterback next year, which would be the bombshell of all bombshells on draft day. I don't know, Sam. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just trying to figure out why Kirk Cousins decided to go there. Couldn't he have gone to like Arizona or something and been a starter next year? Or I don't know, gone somewhere where he had a better chance to be a starter next year? Or maybe he just didn't have a chance to be a starter anywhere next year, and this is what he decided to do.
I am once again forced into one of my favorite positions on this show, being the Raiders guy. This is a genius move for all parties, for everybody involved. This is perfect. I could not have imagined this being as perfect as it is. Think about, just for 1 second, we'll get to Kirk Cousins in a second. Fernando Mendoza is going to be the Raiders starting quarterback in week 1. We all agree. Who is Fernando Mendoza of all the NFL quarterbacks? Who off the field as a person does Fernando Mendoza remind you the most of? The guy who uses LinkedIn as social media? The guy who's amazing in every interview that he does? He's the Kirk Cousins of college football, for crying out loud. These two are the same person. And you talk about, so frequently, we talk about, oh, it's Las Vegas, but Fernando Mendoza isn't going to get distracted by any of the happenings in Las Vegas and all the brouhaha that goes on from, end to end of the Las Vegas Strip. Who else isn't going to let any of that affect him? Kirk Cousins. I guarantee you he won't set foot in a casino throughout his residence in Las Vegas. This is a match made in heaven, Jason. I could not imagine somebody to better show Fernando Mendoza the ropes of the NFL than good old Kirk Cousins.
Can I play contrarian? they don't have to start him week 1. They don't really have to rush to start him week 1 if he's not ready when you do have somebody like Kirk Cousins there. I mean, would it shock you? Would it really shock you if they took a very cautious approach, this version of the Raiders, with John Spytek trying to sort of, get his arms around this thing and trying to rebuild this thing properly? Would it really shock you if they said, Mendoza doesn't have to be the starting quarterback week 1? We can ease him in. We've seen this before. Eli Manning wasn't the starting quarterback week 1 for the Giants when he came through. We've seen it time and time. I could give you countless examples of guys that weren't starting week 1, even though they would wind up being the future franchise quarterback. I don't think it's that crazy to think that Kirk Cousins could be the starter. If we're going to show him the ropes, let's show him the ropes, Sam.
The thing is, it's the first overall pick. If it were a first round pick even, I would say there's a chance. But I'm just going back and looking at the history, and you look at the quarterbacks that were taken first overall. They all started for their team that year, no matter how bad the team was, no matter who else was on the team. Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Sam Bradford. They all, even Matthew Stafford on a horrible Lions team, they all were the first overall pick because they came in to start immediately. With any other pick besides the first overall, it's justifiable to an extent. But with the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, you have to take somebody who's going to start week 1.
Hey, in the last minute of the segment, since we burned all our time on Kirk Cousins and the Raiders, would you pay $10,000 to go see the FIFA World Cup final?
No.
Would you pay half that much?
Where is it? MetLife, right?
I don't know. Are they playing it at MetLife as the final? I don't know. They're playing some matches there. I have to say something. For as outrageous as the ticket prices are, for the final match, charge whatever you want. But for some of these secondary matches, some of these ticket prices are just absurd. And the best thing that could happen is you have a bunch of half-empty stadiums for these World Cup matches. Pox on all their houses. FIFA, the US, everybody who's making a buck on this thing. Pox on all their houses. I hope they're playing in front of a bunch of half-empty stadiums for the World Cup.
We're trending towards that right now. Listen to the international discourse around this tournament. People are willing to go to Canada and Mexico. They're starting to sell tickets, the tickets they already bought to games in the US.
Yeah, I'm like the prices are just outrageous. They have priced out the little guy like me. Odds and ends are next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Tomorrow, special edition of Sports Wrap. Robert Littall will be here, founder of Black Sports Online. And we'll have more of my conversation with Tom Moore, the general manager of the University of Connecticut men's basketball program. It's sort of a kind of special episode of the show because it's Good Friday, holiday weekend. I'm headed out of town. Sam's headed out of town. Are you actually leaving town, or are you just what are you doing? Are you going out of town?
For about 24 hours, I'll be out of town.
Where are you going?
Vermont. Oh,
I am sorry. Yeesh.
Me too.
No offense. I mean, I've been to Vermont, but
I'm not a skier. That's the only reason I mean, if you're a skier, I'm sure Vermont is wonderful all times of year, probably. But I'm just not. I'm not a downhill guy.
Yeah, our buddy Tim Walsh likes the skiing. I'd wind up like Sonny Bono, so I'm not doing the skiing thing.
Don't know who that is, but I'd wind up in a tree.
Oh God, that's what happened to Sonny Bono. That's what. Can't believe you don't know who Sonny Bono is. Oh my God. All right, before we go, a couple of reminders. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast. If you haven't checked this out yet, while I'm doing this promo, go and look up who Sonny Bono is.
I am.
There you go. Sonny Bono. Go and look it up. if you have a chance, go and check out the podcast version of the show because you get all of this in its audio form. And what could be better than that? Monday through Friday, 45 minutes, largely commercial free, available wherever you get your podcasts. Go and check that out. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. I'm looking out of the corner of my eye at Sam's face as he looks at this information about who Sonny Bono is, by the way. I'm trying to keep a straight face. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out yet, go and subscribe today. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show is there. It is fantastic. Sports Wrap Shorts, the Sports Wrap Spotlight, the NBA Weekly, Inside Baseball, all of our companion podcasts, all there waiting for you. Monday through Friday, go and subscribe. Sports Wrap Shorts also available on our YouTube channel, or on our TikTok rather, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some
Gets inside, goes back outside. Wemby on the drive, banks
and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Wemby went off last night. He had 41 in like 17 in 29 minutes. Back-to-back games of 40-plus for him. I mean, he's playing at a ridiculous level right now, and certainly making his case for MVP. The number is closed to plus 300 for Wemby to win MVP. Shea is down to minus 360. It is a two-horse race, Sam Yarnell. And look, I'll say this, and our man Kurt Heelan disagreed with this yesterday. He still thinks even if the Spurs win best overall record, that Shea's going to win MVP. I think if the Spurs win best overall record, Wemby's winning MVP. And even without it, I think he's got a shot right now. I really do.
I think it's Shea's. I do think it's Shea's award to lose. I'm with Kurt there. But I'll say this. I think it's more than a two-man race. If we're counting in Wemby, we got to count Luka into that race too. The stuff that he's doing. I know that he's missed some time, especially recently. And, you know, through our conversations with Kurt, I've learned that may be something that is held against him. But I'll say this. You talk about it. Luka Doncic is just having such an incredible season. I am so hesitant to count him out of this race.
I'll be curious to see who else gets first place votes. That's what's going to be interesting. I think it's a Shea Wemby race, but I want to see Jaylen Brown, how many votes he gets, how many Jokic votes are out there, how many, because I think there's going to be 5 guys that get first place votes. I really do. I think you're going to see more guys get first place votes this time around than any. And frankly, Jaylen Brown is the guy that's getting short shrift the most because he held that team up on his shoulders while, you know, they were waiting for Jason Tatum to get back. But what Wemby is doing right now, Sam, out of this world.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen them give an award that we thought was going to someone else to Jaylen Brown. Maybe get your Jaylen Brown tickets in.
Never know. But I think it's a Wemby SGA race. We mentioned it earlier in the show. Tiger Woods going to rehab. And I said, no. He's going to go do it somewhere on the other side of the world. He said he got permission from a judge, Sam, to go to another part of the world because he said, yeah, you didn't hear about this? He's going to go do it outside the country. He got permission to leave the country for rehab because he says there's too many leaks. There's too much media attention. Only in America can the rich get to go do their rehab somewhere else and leave the country when they're facing misdemeanor DUI charges.
That's a great point. That is very true. Oh, man. Yeah, I can't pass up this opportunity. Rehab in another country. Isn't that what Aaron Rodgers did a couple of years ago?
You know what they call rehab in another country? Vacation. That's what they call it. That's what they call it. Tiger's going on vacation. Time to go. Time to say goodbye. He's going to do it for us. He'll miss the Masters, though. Thank you to Dale Scott. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. We'll see you all back here tomorrow for a Friday edition, a Good Friday edition. Well, every day's a good day, but tomorrow's especially a good day. For all of us, we'll see you later. Bye-bye. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap Shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as exciting. They're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.